discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome back, good day, viewers out there. This is Energy Focus on Money Radio, and it's reaching you on Leadership Television. I'm your host, Winifred Uvuko, and with me in the studio is an in-house guest analyst. It's Anthony Uko. He's the group business editor of Leadership newspaper.
It's good to be here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you on the program. Well, viewers, what are we discussing today? Our discussion topic is on the massive oil theft bust. Nigerians are wondering, would perpetrators be prosecuted? Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has said that weeks of intense crackdown on oil thieves have significantly reduced the scale of oil theft in the oil-rich Niger Delta, and that Nigeria will soon boost overall oil production. However, critics say the deeper problem of corruption has not been solved and question whether those behind the theft will be prosecuted. That is the salient issues now. Nigerians were awash, or the Nigerian media was awash with reports of oil theft bust, massive oil theft bust by the Tompolo-led company recently, and ever since now, nothing has been heard. That's a topic for discussion. You have so much to say on that, being an expert in the field.
Yes. Let me start by painting a picture of what we've been
Yes,
having.
please.
Nigeria relies heavily on crude oil export to earn its foreign exchange. And in recent months, in fact, since the beginning of this year, despite the huge increase in the price of crude oil, it went as high as 120 to a barrel, $120 a barrel. And then it's still high as at this moment, but Nigeria has not benefited.
Has not made any gains.
It has not made any gains. It's not been able. It's been facing a double whammy. Double whammy in the sense that it's not been able to produce enough crude oil to meet its quota on one hand, and thereby earning more from this huge increase in the price of crude in the international market. Then on the other hand, the little it has earned, it's still pumping it back to importing refined product for local consumption. So both ways, it's been a lose-lose situation for Nigeria, and the economy has had to pay for it. As at between January and July, the first 7 months of this year, Nigeria has lost an estimated over $10 billion to crude oil theft. This, when we bring it home, is in the neighborhood of 5 trillion naira. So this is a huge resources that has been lost, and then we remember that in August, in the bid to curb this menace, the government went on to award a pipeline surveillance contract to Tompolo and its team. And a lot of work has been going on, like we've been hearing the reports.
Yes.
And as at on Tuesday, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the NNPC came up to say substantial progress has been made in the area of curbing crude oil theft. In fact, he said 58 pipelines were discovered and then shut. So, as in shut down. So, with all of this, the country is envisaging that it will be able to boost its oil production in the coming days, thereby improving Nigeria's revenue profile. Yes.
Okay, now the question is, you understand, the issue of this oil theft boss is enmeshed in corruption.
Yeah.
Since the discovery of this oil theft by Tom Polo and his company, nothing seemed to have been done except the fact that the Navy went ahead immediately to set on fire the shipyard. What is your take?
Yes, not only before now, even the security operatives have been on the issue of tackling crude oil theft and pipeline vandalism, and they also have their own records. They have on record about 122 people that have been arrested, and
Have they been prosecuted?
that is what we are saying. So that's the point where critics are beginning to, drum up the need for these perpetrators to be brought to book. It's not. It's like it's been shouted. The entire process has been so enmeshed in corruption, such that so many, even the NNPC boss alluded to it, that the high people are involved. In fact, the technology that is required for crude oil theft is not one that can be done by mere
Artisans.
artisans it's a high powered, sophisticated equipment that are used for this. And then they are tapped from the
So
from the
pipeline, we
from
saw
the
it.
pipeline, and then they are taken far out. Sometimes they use cranes. They use massive equipment are not that you cannot hide, yet they still go away with it.
God's grace. That brings us to the question, Inse. Many Nigerians were skeptical when the bust happened. They said there's more to this than meets the eye. That how come Tompolo was giving this pipeline contract surveillance, and the next week he just knew where to go. But can you shed more light on it?
They must have had their reasons for awarding this contract to him. Apparently, they feel, being a former militant in the Niger Delta, he knows what to do. But I wouldn't say that he's been working on his own, even if he, I'm not. It is alleged that he must have known what was happening. But even if he knew, it's been a huge collusion business. And even right now, it is being drummed that even the NNPC itself and Nigeria security operatives, they are not left off the hook in this massive crude theft that have been happening, because a recent discovery also has been a huge pipe from the main Nigeria's main source, the Focados.
Yes, Bukadis.
Yes, and this is from a military, very close to a military station. So, are you trying to tell me that this and that operation, it's been discovered, has been going on for over a decade?
Yes.
So this thing, we have military personnel posted at that point, and then it's been there, it's been going on, and they want to say they don't know about it. That's not possible. That would happen, and they don't know. So critics are like, this indifference towards uh, uh, prosecuting these perpetrators. It sends a kind of it shows that they know that the people who will be culpable, they are people hidden, including even the people who have been entrusted with taking care of this country's assets.
Yes. There has been over time there have been allegations on the part of against the security that the Nigerian security forces are also culpable in these crude oil theft, and just to as if in a pointer to that, the navy went ahead to destroy that ship, and many Nigerians, especially the erudite SAN Femi Falana, has been playing that move, saying that why would the Navy, that was an evidence, go on to set the ship ablaze?
There have been a lot of back and
And they
forth
are
on.
insisting that no, that is part of their mandate to destroy.
Yes,
So how
that's
would
what I'm
you
saying. There's
say
been
that?
a lot of back and forth between what should be and what shouldn't, what not to be. Um, uh, Femi Falana on one side has kicked against the destruction of that, and the Navy insists. But I want to believe they should have done investigation into all everything that is involved. Who are the people? Do they have all this um, uh, evidence? Do they have all this? Have they been able to get all the required information about that vessel that they set ablaze? Or, to me personally, I want to say that the Navy was in too much of a haste.
Exactly.
In
That is
too
what
much
men,
of a haste.
Femi Falana is saying.
Yes, in too much of a haste to destroy that vessel. It's like trying to destroy the evidence so that there cannot be further investigation into the issue because the evidence has been tampered with. And so a lot of the people who would have been um, brought to book as a result of that they've been shielded because right now you won't be able to say, oh, this is how this vessel was, this is what happened. The evidence have been destroyed, it's been tampered with. So are they trying by that to cover up? That has been the clamor, especially by critics, that there is a cover up somewhere in this entire process.
I think that before we go on break, ironically, the President Muhammad Buhari, who incidentally is also the doubles as the Minister of Oil and Petroleum Resources, has not said anything since the bust. What? I mean, why is he mute over the issue?
I am not holding forth for the office of the president, the presidency, and the president himself, and the minister of petroleum resources. I believe, but as someone holding that office, I believe many Nigerians would expect to hear what he has to say on it. But don't forget, there was an incident where um, the president took a stand. The incident that, if you recall, that had to do with the sale of some assets, oil assets, to settlers. And then the president, as the Minister of Petroleum Resources, gave its approval for those assets to be sold to settlers. And then the upstream um, regulator, the NUPRC, stepped in to say that status quo should be maintained, in which case it has declined its approval for that sales to go through. So the presidency cannot supersede its powers. And so I believe maybe as a result of the Petroleum Industry Act that has been signed, a lot of um, gray areas are still there where the presidency seems somehow does not, I would say, maybe doesn't want to speak in haste. But, even a word that these people should be prosecuted would have
Would
gone a
have
long way.
exactly.
Yes, it would have gone a long
It
way.
certainly would have. Well, viewers, we are going on a break. When we come back, we are going to be looking at the whole gamut in the oil industry. Don't go away.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome back. You're on to Energy Focus on Money Radio. It's reaching you on Leadership Television. My name is Winifred Webo, and with me in the studio is an in-house guest. He's an in-house analyst. And Inse Anthony Ugo. She is the group business editor of Leadership newspaper. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Yes, you just joining in. We are looking at the massive oil theft bust. Will perpetrators be prosecuted? Thank you so much. Now, as a follow-up, what would you say is the impact of oil theft on Nigeria's economy?
In fact, the impact of crude oil theft has been massive on the economy. As we speak, Nigeria's has a quota of 1.8 million barrels from OPEC. And as at last month's production output, it was doing a little bit, it was doing 970 thereabout, thousand barrels a day. That is like
Half of
barely above half of it. That means that in terms of production quota, Nigeria is losing like 600 thousand barrels. No, yeah, about over 800,000
over 800.
yes, barrels each day
Yes.
shortfall. And it's been like that since the beginning of the year. It's been dropping. It started with about 1.4 million barrels in January at the beginning of the year. The next month it dropped. There has been a consecutive drop since the beginning of the year in Nigeria's quota, in Nigeria's production output. While on the other hand, Nigeria's quota has been increasing from less than 1.7 million barrels to as much as 1.8 as we speak. And then we've seen a huge the situation where the Russian-Ukrainian crisis has made the price of crude oil to go up in since March. And this is where many of the oil producing countries have been able to amass a lot of resources, huge resources, where some of them who have what we have as excess crude accounts. They've been able to have a buffer. They've been able to shore up savings. Yet, in all of this time, Nigeria has not been able to make enough from crude oil sales to be able to meet its revenue. In fact, for the first quarter, Nigeria's revenue was not even enough to meet to pay for to service its debt. The entire revenue was not enough to service debt, to the point that Nigeria had to borrow to service debts, and then to also meet its other needs, pay salaries, overhead, run the government. So the impact of crude oil theft on the economy has been massive. Even as we speak, the country is virtually running dry. It's been technically on life support financially, if I can use that word. So Nigeria is in a dire strait financially, and this is the cash cow of the nation. Yet some people have been benefiting from it. The oil companies have had to shut down production. Shutting down production means that not only is it revenue loss for the country, a lot of people have been out of jobs. So on every scale that you want to look at it, Nigeria's economy has been losing. It suffered tremendously. And then there was a statement that the NNPC boss said. He said during the COVID months, the lockdown period, when crude oil went into negative, Nigeria actually produced up to 2 million barrels of crude oil per day. So there was no incentive for them, for the vandals, for the crude oil theft, for the thieves.
Okay.
Because at that point, when you siphon, what are you to do? What will you do with it? You can't sell it. So at that point, Nigeria was actually producing up to 2 million barrels. And so what happened? And it was at that point, as Nigeria was coming back out of lockdown, that they would have put in measures to ensure that this crude oil theft does not begin all over again. But before now, it's like there has been a huge indifference.
If I may cut in, how come this administration is recording a huge, massive oil theft as compared to other administrations? Because there has never been in the life of administrations that we've not been able to at least meet up to our quota.
That is
like now. What is happening?
Okay. In the if you're talking about meeting up the quota,
I'm talking
it's
about
not
quota.
no. There has been, but it hasn't been this low.
The gap is
the gap has not been this low, this bad.
So it means that there are so many new actors.
Yes, it means they've looked at the picture that people are stealing this thing and getting away free. Nothing is happening, and again, like it's been alleged, many of the top-notch people have now gotten involved in it, and they've been doing it, and nobody has been
with impunity.
Yes, they've been doing it with impunity and getting away with it. So it has encouraged a lot more people, a lot more organized criminals to come into the foray and continue to rob the country dry. In fact, in the budget projection for next year, the crude oil revenues have been reduced from 30% in this current year's budget to 20%. And even this current year's budget has not even, the crude oil aspect of it has not been met, which means the economy has been running purely on non-oil revenues. So what happens to the crude oil, which is Nigeria's commonwealth?
That is pathetic. Not just before we go, the Sanusi did raise a weighty allegation that how come that it's not possible that Nigerians are consuming about 600 and over 600 million barrels of crude a day, of refined petroleum a day. Now, instead, I ask, why is the oil or petroleum industries, Nigeria's own, shrouded in so much secrecy? Nigerians cannot tell, or NNPC cannot tell Nigerians exact amount of fuel, that is fuel consumption.
That has been an ongoing battle. That last year when they came up, at some point they came up with the figure of 1 million liters of petrol a day, and coming from in the era of Ibe Kachuku as the
NNPC
Minister of State for Petroleum, where it was about 35 or 38, not up to 40 million liters. And that's, even at that point, that data was questioned.
Yes.
That how many cars do we have in Nigeria? How do they consume on a daily basis, then we would say that the Nigerians consume up to less than 40 million liters per day.
Yes.
But within then and now, we have seen a massive increase, even to the point that over 100 liters per day was touted as the
They,
consumption.
they said 600 million,
No, no,
and
no, that is
Ms.
not.
Sanusi said, no, how come? But now, why won't NNPC categorically tell us, look at how many liters of petroleum that Nigerians are consuming? Why is it so hard to say?
It's all the issue of corruption that we're talking about. That's why it's some uh, people in some quarters have said every one of them are culpable.
Mm.
It is not just they know, because if they were not part of the deal, then they would have exposed it. You cannot operate something in such level of secrecy if you're not benefiting from it. Why not expose everything and throw it open and clean up the system?
Yes.
And that's what I see here, that the PIA is beginning to infuse. The PIA is beginning to infuse a lot of transparency into the
Okay.
system, and that's why we see all of these developments coming up.
Yeah.
And then the NNPC now is required to be more transparent and more accountable. Before now, the NNPC was not accountable. Now people are going to ask them questions, even though it's still government owned. But very soon it is anticipated that it's going to become also privately owned, as they list their shares on the stock exchange. So they themselves, that they knew what was going on. They are now beginning to clean up their acts. But Nigerians are still waiting to see what happens with the people who are being apprehended.
Yes.
The perpetrators of
Exactly.
this, who have robbed many Nigerians. In fact, they've robbed Nigerians of so much. You can imagine the level to which the current government has borrowed. As at the last calculation that was done, each Nigerian citizen is owing over 50,000 naira. Imagine, and for generations yet unborn, they will continue to pay these debts. So even where Nigeria begins to earn income on a sustainable basis, it will still be paying and servicing debts that could have been prevented. So that is why it's these people, the matter should not just be swept under the carpet, that oh, we have the issue of crude oil theft is being handled, and then it won't happen
So
again.
go and sin no more.
Go and sin no more. So who are the people? Nigerians want to know, and Nigerians want to see that they are made scapegoats to prevent others from also going there.
Now, going forward, you mentioned the PIA. Going forward, so what do you foresee for the oil industry, Nigeria's oil industry, with the PIA?
If actually the PIA is implemented as it is, because up till now we have been seeing the federal government implementing areas that favor it. For instance, the NUPRC overrode the presidency on a decision.
Yes.
Yeah, because somehow, well, I wouldn't say, but to an extent, some people were favored in it. So, but what happens to every other provisions of that act? It's they defied the entire implementation by 18 months, which ends by next year February. So let's hope that when that time comes, they will begin to put each um, provision of that act into, they will begin to implement it, and we'll see a more transparent and a more accountable petroleum executive.
Thank you so much. That's it. Take a way home. I'm practically biting my tongue there. Well, viewers, you've heard it all from Vincent, Anthony Ugo, Good Business Editor, Leadership Newspaper. Yes, I look forward to having you in the studio next week. Same
Thank you. I
time,
look
same
forward
station.
as well.
So, viewers, my name is Winifred Webo, and this is where we call it a day. Bye.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.